Hi, this is Kane Hodder, Victor Crowley, Jason from Friday the 13th. You're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by the writer, director, the editor, I think he's everything, RENE PEREZ of Playing With Dolls.
Hello, Neil.
Hello, how are you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we're also joined by one of the stars, Stormi Maya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, Playing With Dolls Havoc comes out July 20th on video on demand. And for people who aren't aware of the movie yet, or what it's about, could you give them an idea?
Well, Havoc is a slasher movie. Playing with Dolls Havoc is a slasher movie. And our main goal with it, and what I think we've achieved, is that it's actually a scary horror movie. It's not a comedy. It's not anything other than just straight horror. If you watch it with the lights turned off and you are listening to it on a good system or, God forbid, your headphones, you will have a scary experience. So, in a nutshell, that's what the movie is.
Mm-hmm. And not just because both of you are here. Actually, when I was watching it, I did have some jumps. And I've been watching horror movies my whole life, but it definitely works.
Good, good. Were you watching it with the lights off and the sound up, or
yeah, I had
what was your?
I had the headphones on, full screen here on my on the computer, and lights off. I think that's always the best way to watch any movie. And
yes,
yeah. And
I agree.
Yeah, and what you said there, I think for fans of slasher movies, it really just delivers what you want from a slasher movie. It's got beautiful women, hot women in it, and it's got a cool killer killing them.
Yeah, and I'm glad you jumped a few times because the jump scares are part of a good horror movie. A lot of people are against some jump scares or something, but some weird kind of trend happening now. But along with gore, along with tension, along with mood, along with setup, jump scares are a very important part of horror, and that's what our focus on was when we made this movie.
Yeah, Stormi, how did you get involved?
Hey, so basically, I actually found RENE on Facebook. We connected, and it was like right in the brink of time that he needed an actress. And I post a lot of my work online. And I guess RENE caught his attention, and we started talking, and we both, he found out that I love horror movies a lot, and so we connected, and I went and filmed.
Yeah. Well, what was it about Stormi, RENE, that you thought would be good for the movie?
Well, at first it was just her looks. I mean, she is a beauty to be sure. But then as I started reading her posts on my Facebook, I saw her talking about theater, acting, and stuff like that. And, to me, any actor or actress who takes part in theater is always going to be a good performer because they have to practice a lot. And those are my favorite kind of actors, the ones who practice. So I said, wow, she looks like that. And she's a practice actor. Let me give her a call. And she was nice enough to accept my communication, and we just went from there. Next thing I know, she was on the plane to California, and we were filming. It was great.
Yeah. Now, Stormi, I have to ask you, because I also saw on your IMDb that you write and produce, and RENE just mentioned that you are acting in theatrically. Do you get sometimes people who just see you and don't expect these other things from you?
Well, yeah, I even get people who don't expect me to even be a serious actress. They think that I'm going to be some Instagram model and I want to be famous and that's all I care about. So even when I entered the theater world, people looked at me differently because I didn't look like any of the other theater girls. Since I've started the producing and learning more about the business, people, they still kind of look at me like, oh, there's no way this chick is really getting ahead with her hard work. They still think I'm, banging directors and stuff, which doesn't happen. So,
that didn't happen with us.
My looks benefit me. No, it didn't happen with anyone. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like, my looks benefit me, and then there's cons to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Has that ever, you said there's cons to it as well. Has that ever, has there ever been, like, a problem?
Well, the thing is, as an actress, being very attractive as an actress is obviously a benefit, but I would say that most people look at me and automatically assume that I'm not serious about what I'm saying. Like, they're like, oh, she's an actress, whatever. She's just trying to get 5 minutes of TV time. And it's even harder as a producer because now that I'm going to people for investments and I'm trying to do business with them, they're looking at me like, do I trust this like hot chick with my money? Like, come on, seriously. So, it has its pros and cons, and I have no problem with that.
Yeah. I kind of joked at the beginning when I introduced you, Renee, about writer, director, editor, and you've done pretty much everything on the movie. But seriously, do you feel like you have to do all those different things to make an independent movie?
Well, in my situation, yes, because I am all of my talent goes towards the arts. I don't have any talent for business whatsoever. So I get given very low budgets, and luckily I know how to do all these things. Luckily I know how to work a camera myself. Luckily I know how to edit. Luckily I happen to be a piano player, so I can compose the music. If I were a better businessman, which is usually who you get in Hollywood, I would be able to hire people to do a lot of the jobs that I would prefer not to do. But since I'm a bad businessman, sadly, I have to do it all myself because I'm not able to negotiate better, bigger budgets for myself. We're probably talking about a situation where if I had a little bit more business sense, I'd be able to get bigger budgets and hire other people, but that's not the case. So yeah, I have to do it all. Most of the jobs I like doing, I would always be my own cameraman regardless, my own editor, my own music composer, the director, my own writer. So a lot of the jobs I've just gotten so used to doing, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's probably the other 20 jobs I have to do, which I would, in a better situation, hire someone to produce the movie and do a bunch of other things that I have to do now, which I would prefer not to have to do.
Now, you mentioned being a low budget, and the movie's in 4K Ultra, and it looks great, and a lot of it's outdoors in the bright light. Is there any hindrance to that? Because, a lot of times horror movies are kind of hidden in the shadows, not only for the feel of the movie, but try to hide some of the flaws in the gore or the makeup or special effects.
Yeah, well, a lot of people do that, but where we do spend our money it's all on screen. None of us are living lavish. We didn't have a big, nice, great hotel room for Stormi when she came. We had a decent one.
No catering.
And we don't eat great. Yeah, there's no catering. It's like, let's bring sandwiches to the cave. We're going to be filming in the cave today. And I do have plenty of nighttime scenes and the cave scenes where I could have hidden stuff. But the thing is, people want to see this. And I know a lot of filmmakers are out there. They're like, hey, let's do like Jaws and not show the shark. There's this huge thing about that, but this is a slasher movie, and people want to see what they came here to see, and I'm not here to work just on what makes me happy. I'm here to make something that the fans will like, and it's a balance between the two. What do the people want, and what do I want? And then I have to merge that. And they want to see the stuff. They want to see the beautiful girls. They want to see the actual gore. They want to see the impact of the blades or whatever's happening. They don't want us to turn away. So I make sure I deliver on that. That's a conscious choice. I certainly could hide everything. Even in the daytime scenes, you could hide things behind trees, behind walls, or turn the camera away right when the hatchet is about to go down. But that would be in another movie. That would be in a watered-down thriller kind of movie, which are kind of in vogue right now. Mine is just like an 80s style slasher movie, and there's no holding back.
Yeah.
Not on this kind of movie.
Mm-hmm. And this is no knock on the movie or like slashers like that in general, but I think like exactly what you said, you should know what kind of movie you're making. And if I'm watching, a slasher movie with a crazy killer, I like to see the gore and the death scenes, and
Yeah.
it's always kind of annoying when they do cut away and you just kind of hear like a click or something. I like to see it if that's the kind of movie I'm watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a slasher movie, and with this guy's mask on the cover of whatever you're renting or buying, whatever your method of consumption is, whether it's Amazon or YouTube or iTunes, you see that poster. There really is no way around it. This is a horror movie, and it is a slasher movie, and it is not like a lot of these current movies. You see them and you're like, is that even a horror movie? And you have to read the genre, the subgenre that it's horror, which is a huge problem that we're having these days. You have to watch a movie and then decide later on, well, was that a horror movie? You have to talk about it. Back in the 80s, they had things like Hellraiser or Nightbreed or Phantasm, whatever you were doing, and you know good and well it was a horror movie. So any horror movies that I do, I make sure that they are what they set out to be. And that's certainly the case with Playing with Dolls Havoc.
Yeah. And Stormi, what was it like to film in the cavern?
I'll be honest, it wasn't like an enjoyable experience. I wouldn't like. I love the filming process, but I'll be honest, it is very hard. It is a difficult setting. It's not the same as, you're filming in a beautiful bedroom or in a nice house or, in a backyard. Like, we're filming in, it was still winter time or like the end of spring, it was cold. And we're in a cave for hours all day. It's wet. I'm wearing clothes as if it was summertime. It was a lot of work, but as an actress, I accept the challenge and I stuck it up, and we do the best that we can for the movie. But I'm not going to lie and say, oh, it was so, delightful. It was very hard, but we busted our asses and we made a great movie. So that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. Does that help you get into the character at all when you're actually like in a cavern and not like a man-made set?
Yeah, honestly, it helps put you in that setting. It helps put you in that mental state, like this is real. Because honestly, we have a small crew, so it's not like you have a ton of people around you. Like, you do feel like for a moment like this is really going on. And Havoc is pretty terrifying in person just as much as he is on screen, so there is no difference. And so, like, honestly, yeah, it does help you put you in that mental state. And a lot of it sometimes isn't even acting. Sometimes it's like you really do feel like you would feel if you were like...
Which is great. What about Renee filming in the cavern? Is that difficult?
It is, and it's well. Let me talk about Stormi real quick. She never complained about it whatsoever while we were there. And it was really cold and wet, and she had to get wet. She had to, and she was wearing something so sheer. You've seen the movie, so sheer, it's see-through. So she had no protection from the elements. So it was pretty awesome that she didn't complain about it, and only telling you about it now after it's done. But yeah, it's equally hard when you're filming because you've got your lights exploding because water might drop on it, and it's an extreme place to film, but it is so beautiful. Definitely. And it's just a breathtaking place, and I hope I captured it at least somewhat as good as what it looks like in real life, because it really is an incredible sight to see. And as hard as it may be, it's worth it, especially when you're making a movie. You have to show people beautiful places, and you have to make it look beautiful, even if you're going to fill it with horrible images of macabre masked men and murder and blood and guts. It's great to have it in such a beautiful place, which is like a work of art. It's almost like working with all works of art. The killer, his mask is a work of art. Stormi is a work of art. The location is a work of art. It's just all incredible filming there, even if it's so hard, you know.
Yeah, I always like the contrast of something horrific in somewhere that looks very nice.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
with pleasant
It's
music
interesting
playing.
to the eye, and that's what we're here to do. I know most of these movies just take place in a cabin from start to finish, but that it doesn't really work for me like that. I like to go to beautiful places, to outside in nature, and in a cathedral made out of stalactites. It's just it's just a sight to see, even if it wasn't in the movie. So
Sure.
yeah,
Where did
glad
you
you
find
noticed
that? Where did you find it?
That is a place called Shasta Lake Caverns. It's in Northern California, where I live and where I film all my movies. So I've actually taken my kids there on a little tour. You know, they give tours there. It's it's just a vacation attraction if you're out doing nature kind of vacationing, and it's just a beautiful place. And luckily, they let us film there.
Where did the whole where did the idea for Havoc come from?
Well, I worked for a German distributor at the time, and every 4 or 5 months they would just have me start working on a new movie, and I would cringe whenever I knew I was going to get my assignments and be, oh my God, please let this be something I want to film, because half the time they'd have me film things that I just didn't want to do, but it's my job, I have to do it, and it said, what about doing a horror movie, a slasher movie? And I just, oh my God, I was so happy, because that's right in my my acumen. It's exactly the things that I dream about doing. So that's where the assignment came from. And basically it was up to me to write a story and create something that would fit in the slasher horror genre. So that's where the assignment came from, just my boss. And then the rest of it, just like always, is trying to write a story around the budget, and that's how I came up with it.
Yeah. Does the movie play well in Germany? Because I know from their show we have a lot of German fans, and they love slasher movies in Germany.
It's it's a little problematic, because they have a rating system which is a little bit backwards from the American style. For example, they here in America we censor nudity more than we censor violence. In Germany, in Europe in general, they are fine with all kinds of nudity. I think they even have it in their shampoo commercials last time I was there. But with violence, they're very nitpicky. So my horror movies in Germany get edited a lot.
Yeah.
And this one is this one's no exception. So my apologies to the German viewers, because I do get a lot of German emails, fan emails and stuff. So I wish that the editing, the censoring didn't happen. They'll see all the nudity in the movie, but a lot of the blood and guts and the gore will get censored. I'm really petitioning this time with my distributor in Germany, begging not to have it done, but they need to release it and have an FSK seal, just like we have to have a motion picture rating over here in the United States. Or I'm asking if they could release it separately, uncut version somehow, so that the fans don't have to tolerate watching a chopped up movie.
Yeah.
So I'm working on it.
From what I understand through some of our listeners from Germany, is some of them then go and buy like the Austrian version, because I guess they're not as bad on censorship as they are actually in Germany.
Really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that loophole existed. If that's the case, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, anywhere, Switzerland, Germany, and Austria are all German language, so there should be no change. Well, if that happens, that would be news that I never knew about, and I would love to tell people about it if that's really the case.
Yeah, I mean, I only know through different interviews and listeners of the show, so that's my understanding. Otherwise, I'd have no idea.
Happy news. Yes. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think even what you named the movie, though, Playing with Dolls, is very fitting for the movie, because it's it's very fitting for the killer. He's literally playing with dolls, beautiful women, and it's not just about the kill in the movie. I think a lot of is about the stalking of the victims.
Yeah, well, the stalking helps make for tense scenes, makes for to build up the fear, the tension. And yeah, he does play with them. A lot of these killers, they just want to kill and be done with it. And I don't really have any proclivities towards violence or murder. And it's hard when you're writing a story about someone with such an intense psychopathy that they would actually kill people for pleasure. But I think it's a lot more than just quick, like, ooh, I chopped off that guy's head, I have extinguished his life or her life, whatever it is, like in a lot of the slasher movies. In this case, Havoc does play with his victims, and that's where his pleasure comes from. So even if he does grab you, he might not just kill you right then and there. He might, or if he likes you, like if you're the kind of doll he wants to play with, he'll play with you for a little while, just like a cat playing with a mouse. You know, they won't kill it right away. They'll play with it because they enjoy playing. And that's what kind of killer he is. He's a little bit different than the slashers we've seen up till now.
Yeah. And Storm, you mentioned that even when you're filming it, that Havoc himself was pretty scary to look at. Can you talk about him and the actor who plays Havoc?
Well, I don't think Renee wants me to talk about the actor. We try to keep that a mystery so that we can keep so we can keep the story alive. But
I like that.
I will say that when he is fully in his Havoc attire, it's honestly no different from watching it in the movie. Havoc is about 6'5", 6'6" in person. I'm 5'3", so imagine the difference. And I think that's why it works well, because seeing that difference on screen looks very good. Being a short actress with this super monster, he's super big, and I would say that he really gives the character. Sometimes it kind of freaks me out how into character he is. So it doesn't help you as an actress get into that moment, because you're like, okay, like I don't know if he's acting anymore or if he's turned psycho. I think it's to that point sometimes.
Yeah. And I like not talking about whoever portrays Havoc. It's like a callback to the original Frankenstein. It doesn't even have him in the credits.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you watch original Frankenstein, it's just a monster question. Boris Karloff.
I think a lot of people ruin their horror movies by showing their monsters out of costume, and they show their monsters taking selfies with people on set, and I think it takes you out of that fantasy. So I like what Renee does, that he keeps it a fantasy and keeps it so you're scared, thinking like this could really happen to you. Like when you were a kid and you watched horror movies and you were like, what if this guy really comes under my bed right now?
Yeah. Yeah, before the internet, and you could look up all this stuff. I like that. It keeps a mystique for the character.
Yeah, the internet could water things down a lot, so we're careful to do it. I know the reason I do it, the reason I implement it is because I remember the first time I saw Darth Vader with a behind-the-scene picture. Although he was played by a huge bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia or whatever he was, it really took the air out of my balloon. I was like, wow, it's just a normal guy. And not normal, a Superman of sorts. But I just didn't want that same thing to happen to anyone who's really into the movie. And we do get a lot of young viewers, a lot of the times younger than I think is healthy. So hopefully no younger than teenagers. I know there are some kids younger than teenage years who are watching these movies, which I do not recommend. Stormy, I don't even know if I told you about this, but we saw a video of a 7-year-old boy who was making a mask from Playing With Dolls on YouTube, and he was showing his progress. And it looked pretty close to our killer's mask. Yeah, I was like, what is this little boy doing? And I was like, should I write this kid and tell him I'm the director? And I was like, the only thing I could imagine saying is, do your parents let you watch this? You shouldn't be watching this. So, yeah, sometimes we have young viewers, and I never did contact the boy, but we definitely don't want to destroy the mood. As a matter of fact, even with Stormy, if you remember, we didn't have her see Havoc until it was on screen and he comes at her. So her first time seeing him in full costume is the take that we see in the movie, and he's coming straight at her. So her response was real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I always find that fascinating when I in The Descent. I don't know if you're familiar with The Descent. They kept the monsters away from the actors. And in Kane Hodder's book, he likes to do that usually, stay away from the other actors, so you get their actual reaction on camera.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it if we could do it. It was hard to keep him hidden, but we just we tried our best, and I know she didn't see him before that, and so that way you don't have to act like you're scared. You could really be scared as a 6 foot whatever 5 guy comes charging at you. It's pretty easy to be scared like that, huh, Stormy?
Yeah.
Well, yes, he also didn't let me see Havoc until we were ready to do that scene. He kept him hidden from me, and he wouldn't let me see him until legit we were ready to do things and we were into character. Yeah. So yeah, it really did freak me out.
And I love the gore in the movie. I love pulling out the intestines and also the noise. Sometimes I think that's overlooked in good gore is the sound effects, because that really can add a lot to it.
Yeah, they they say that sound is 50% of your movie. In a horror movie, it's really more. Mm-hmm. The music, the sound effects. In horror, when you were trying to go for fear, setting a mood, sound is a lot more than that. Our sound guy, Guthrie Lowe, did a great job on the gore, and if you watch it without the sound, it really takes away a big chunk of the gross factor. And the gross factor, the gore, is important because not just to show people blood and guts flying all over the place, but it comes down to, I don't want this to happen to me. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people dismiss gore, and they say, oh, well, there's just some people who are into that. Well, what it really is that you want to show people through film language that you don't want this to happen to you. And anytime this guy is here with his big cleaver weapon, this could happen. So the grosser and more graphic you can make and realistic you can make the gore, the more people will turn away from it and go, oh my God, every time this guy comes, this could happen. And it helps build fear. So to me, that is the purpose of having such graphic gore in a movie.
Yeah, and it totally works. And I don't want you to give too much away of the magic of making a movie, but for the sound effects, are those something that you already have, or do you go out and film different sounds to match up what you're going for?
Well, I wasn't there with Guthrie. He's a great sound designer, and I don't know which parts he had able to design, the sound of a fruit getting ripped open or a plant being ripped. I don't know which of those things he had already on his sound library and just mixed them together, mixed elements to make it happen, or any things he had to go out and actually record with a microphone something happening, which is called Foley. Yeah. So I don't know how much of that happened because he works at his office, I work in mine. Mm-hmm. We're not even in the same state. All I know is that he turns in awesome stuff, and if I have any requests for changes or upgrades, he does a hell of a job with it. So I'm not sure exactly what his process is.
Yeah. Stormy, what did you think of the movie when you saw the finished product? Because it's one thing to film it, but once you see it with the score and the sound effects and everything, what did you think of the film?
I honestly loved it. I think the quality looks way more than what like we basically paid. So the budget does not reflect on the work, which I'm very impressed with, because most people in this industry, they'll have a certain amount of money and I don't know, most people don't know how to make a smaller budget movie look like $1 million movie. And so I'm really impressed that the quality and the sound and everything just looks like movie theater quality, like something you would see an A-star in. And I think other people were impressed as well, because when I was telling people about the movie and they saw it, they were like, oh my God, this looks amazing. This looks legitimate. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, it's legitimate. It's just not, you know, a $50,000 million movie, whatever. So I was very happy to see it come together. I was happy with the other actors' work. And overall, I was happy to be a part of a film that I actually was proud of and where everyone that was involved worked really hard. And so I was happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and not just because you're here, but the production value is really high, because I see a lot of independent, you know, horror movies, and that's fine. You know, I know that they don't cost a lot, but this one, your movie really looked professional, like she said, and it looked great.
Thank you. You guys are too kind. Actually, we filmed Stormi the first time she watched the movie. We set up a little camera, and she and a couple of other girls watched it. And she was just happy as a clam. But I think it's safe to say that technically you're a scaredy cat, Stormi. Is that right? Because we got you to jump and scream on every scare that there was in the movies, and we have it on film. So that was pretty awesome.
Well, I'm just naturally a scaredy cat, which is why I think I'm perfect for doing horror movies, because 90% of the time, I'm not pretending I'm scared. I really am. Everything scares me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, if anyone wants to check out the audience reaction video on YouTube, it shows Stormi and a couple of other girls watching the movie alone in the dark with the sound turned up, and yeah, it went pretty well. That was our test to see if the movie was really scary, and it worked out. So we were very happy with that.
Yeah, that's very cool. Where can you find that on YouTube?
If you just type in "Playing with Dolls Havoc" and audience reaction, it should come right up.
Okay.
Or if you go to pwdhavoc.com, that's the website. You could see the trailer and the audience reaction video, and that's where you'd go to download the movie and everything.
And I want to bring this up just because some people might see that there are other Playing with Dolls movies, and that this is the third one. But you don't have to have seen those movies. This is a totally standalone film. Right,
yeah, it's pretty easy. As soon as you type in "Playing with Dolls," you'll see 3 different movies show up. They are all pretty separate, especially this one. You don't need to see them all in order to catch what's happening in Part 3. As a matter of fact, Part 3 is a 100% standalone story. The only thing that stays the same is the killer. Now, if you watch them all, they all make sense that this is 1, 2, 3. But they're all completely different stories, with only the killer and his psychotic overseer as the only things that stay. There is no connecting them story-wise. You could watch them out of order. You could watch one and not the other two. They're specifically designed that way.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if I make a 4th movie, it will be called Havoc without the name Playing with Dolls, and it'll be just a direct sequel to this one. So, with Stormi. So,
are there plans for that?
Well, it all depends. Since I'm not the money man, if it was up to me, I would just make the things I want. But it only depends on if we get enough people to watch this movie. This movie is Playing with Dolls Havoc is being released independently by us, the producers, the filmmakers, and we are trying to get enough money to make it a success and validate making more, because I certainly have more in store for the character of Havoc. And the issue we're having now, it's going okay now, but the issue we're having now is that most people pirate movies. Stormi's with me on this one. And they see it as a victimless crime, but it's not the case for blue-collar filmmakers who have, like me, wife and kids and a mortgage and all that kind of stuff. I'm not driving around in a Ferrari in L.A. I don't even go to L.A. So that's the main problem that we're having, and I'm not able to say at this moment if we will be able to do more of them unless people start actually paying and stop stealing the movie. If the people who were watching it on these free sites would even have paid 5 cents to watch it, we would already be like filming part 4 of Playing with Dolls. So that's not the case. We have people watching in the millions, but they're watching it for free, and not even close to that of people who are buying to have the 4K version from Vimeo. You can get it in 4K in Vimeo and own it, and it'll be future proof. And or you can watch
Amazon.
In Amazon, yeah, you can watch it in Amazon, where we have a lot of great reviews on there. And you can own it or rent it if you wanted to just try it out. So hopefully the listeners here will gravitate more towards paying for the movie as we do this promotion here.
Yeah, it's too bad because it's, that's a problem with so many people I have on the show. And in my experience, it seems like a lot of younger people don't even see it as something wrong. They just see it as another way of watching a movie, only it's cheaper. And I know one of our first guests we had on the show in 2006 was Adam Green, who was before Hatchet was coming out, and he had talked about people would actually message him. This was on MySpace days. Message him on MySpace saying that they saw the movie, and he's like, "Well, how?" And like they would say they downloaded it, and they would actually get mad at him when he would say, he would recommend actually like buying a ticket even if you didn't go see the movie at the theater, just to help pay for it since you download it. And they would actually get mad at him about that, call him like he was greedy, and this is it's a very different mindset,
Yeah, it's pretty ruinous.
Easy. Everyone thinks it's People think what we do is easy. They think it's a joke. They think acting. They think it's so easy. I see the way they talk about celebrities and actors. Oh, it's so easy. Oh, they make so much money for doing nothing. And they think directors have it easy. They think making movies is like being at school and recording something with your phone. They think it's a big joke. They think nothing goes into it. You film a movie, they expect it to be out a month later. So people don't have a good understanding about how the industry works, how acting works. They just see, a movie advertised and they see it out and it's an hour and they're like, well, that was an hour movie. That couldn't have been that much work. Meanwhile, it can be months, a year, more than that types of work. You never know. And a lot of people don't appreciate it, but I like the people who do appreciate it. And there's some people who really do. And I've had some people who, have paid for the movie. They tell me they paid for the movie, and I appreciate them. So, I'm just kind of annoyed that there are people that won't pay $3 for something that we spend months putting together.
Sure. And that's another thing. It would be one thing if it's a movie that has never been released on. I'm not saying it's good anyway, but if it's a movie that you can't find anywhere, and like the only way you're going to find it if you download it, I mean, at least I can understand that. But when so many of these new movies are so readily available, and for only usually like $3 to rent or maybe $10 to own it, I don't think there's really any excuse to just go and download it.
Well, the piracy is a lot bigger of an issue than anyone realizes, that unless you're actually in this world. It's ruinous to horror movies. And it is the reason why there are no in-between movies anymore. Just like they say the middle class in America was disappearing all these years. It has completely disappeared in movies. And now you only get either $1 or $2 million movies that they spend $10 million on advertising, or you get big blockbuster things like the Marvel movies where they have $200 to $300 million advertising per movie. The middle ground movies no longer exist. You wonder why you don't go to the movies and see Silence of the Lambs or Forrest Gump. Anything that used to exist in the middle no longer is created. So the piracy that arose because of the internet has ruined the movie industry and a lot of the music industry also, most of the music industry, just because people cannot take a risk on making anything that's good anymore. It's either got to be way at the bottom of the barrel or it's got to be the top with all the marketing in place. And the in between, where a lot of things where we used to love no longer exist. We won't get another, Goodfellas or another Forrest Gump. They'll just make it into some long, drawn-out TV show now with less quality because there's no way to make it profitable in a theater anymore in high quality because of the piracy. It's got to be something like Star Wars or Batman, where even though there's so much piracy, there are still enough decent people who don't steal products that it still becomes worthwhile. Yeah. And that's the problem with piracy. It's not just because of the blue-collar filmmakers like myself or the up-and-coming actors. It affects every part of the movie industry, and it's why you get movies that are crap. And let's just be honest, people always use Transformers as a thing. Well, Transformers is just a commercial for toys and other products, and no one cares. But they have so much advertising in place that even with the piracy, they can still make a profit, and that's the only thing that matters to them. And making a good story is never part of their equation, and that's the case with so many movies out there. So thanks a lot, pirates, people who are stealing movies. We're all suffering because of it.
Yeah, and like people who complain even about all the reboots and there's no original horror movies. It's the same thing, because when there are original horror movies that come out, the people don't support it enough to make more of them. I know when Turbo Kid came out and Tales from Halloween just a few years ago, they were like the most pirated movie of that month, even more so than the big movies. And so, I really love both those movies, but people didn't really support them, so it's hard for them to make another one.
Yeah, we've been pirated in the millions already. Last time I checked, it was over 3 million. And it's like just even having a penny from each one of those people would have been great, but they chose to just watch it in bad quality. It's just a McDonald's culture kind of people, They're not movie lovers like you watched it in the dark and, with your headphones on. And I watch movies with my lights turned off and, but I'm a movie lover and
I go to the theater a lot.
When I watch something, I want to be engrossed by it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky to have some theaters in Boston that show older movies and independent movies, and when I can, it's the experience of watching a movie on the big screen is that's the pinnacle. Even last night it was pretty cool. They showed the original King Kong in 35 millimeter outdoors in Boston, just out in the city, and it's like that's a great experience.
Well, it's an art form. People don't understand that because it's been diluted so much, but just like a painting is visual and music is auditory, a movie is both, and it's a piece of art, whether it's your type of art or not. We live on a planet where people listen to Beyonce instead of Beethoven. So there's these great things that exist in art, and people just ignore them as if they're nothing. It's because we live in a culture where art is not appreciated. It's not like Europe. Europe, they appreciate art. In America, sadly, they don't. And, they just want something fast and easy. They'll watch it on their phone when they've got nothing better to do while they're traveling, which is really a disservice. It's kind of you're wasting your time and especially when it comes to horror, you need to immerse yourself. You have to turn off the lights. You have to be paying attention. It's kind of like a comedy movie. You know how some comedy movies are visual. They're not about the joke. They're not about the punchline. They're about someone slipping over a banana peel at the right time. So if you're not paying attention to it, you're going to miss the whole purpose of watching it. And that means everything in a horror movie. If you're not sitting in the dark, you shouldn't even bother to watch it, honestly. And Yeah, well, that's my whole spiel. But I'm a filmmaker. Maybe I take it too seriously.
Well, no, I agree with you. I grew up watching movies. I'm like that kid you mentioned, though. I was watching horror movies since I was 6, so probably
Yeah.
stuff I shouldn't have seen.
Yeah, I'm going to have to email him now because that's too much of a weird thing. You're the first people that I've spoke to about it, but I showed my wife and I said, "This little kid is 7 years old, like my daughter, and he's recreating this mask. Where are his parents?"
Well, maybe he'll grow up to be the next Tom Savini. So
yeah, maybe he's certainly on his way to doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, my first was Halloween, and I think I was 5 years old. So I might be beating you by a year if my memory serves.
Yeah. The first one I remember is Night of the Living Dead. It was at the drive-in because my single mom and my brother's 9 years older, so she would take him to the drive-in instead of get a babysitter. Would take me along. And that's the first one I have any memory of seeing. And
nice.
I remember because it's a scene where the pickup blows up and the zombies start to eat them. And I got upset. My mom just turned to me and said, "It's okay. They're just having a barbecue." And then I was totally okay. I was like, "Oh, all right, it's fine."
Human barbecue. That's a good one to start with. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Stormy, do you remember your first horror movie?
What do you mean the first one I ever seen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, and that's like they just made a remake of it.
Well, that does not narrow it down.
It's my first movie.
Well, I'm sorry, what was it?
It's the original.
It
is what I saw.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, that was like the first one I saw when I was like 6, and it like terrorized me for the rest of my life
very
because
scary,
when I was up until the age of like 13, I was scared of going to the bathroom. I thought I was going to come out the damn drain and stuff, and I was like, yeah, it scared me for a while. And then after that, it was The Ring. Mm-hmm. I saw, like, I think I was like 7, The Ring, and that was pretty terrifying because then I was scared of, like, the TV making the fizzy sound and, like, you know, that fizzy stuff that comes on the TV. Because in the movie, like, the end of the tape, it's like that fizzy stuff, like, you know.
Yeah, static, yeah.
TV. And static, yeah. And so that terrified me for a while. And it's always horror movies that have, like, an element of realism to it that scare me the most. Like, okay, someone calling you, or static on the TV, or coming out the bathroom drain, because they put you in situations where, oh, my God, this could really happen. Especially when you're, like, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and you're like, oh, my God, is this going to happen? So, yeah, those are the ones that pretty much terrorized me as a child.
Yeah, I understand.
Nice.
Because when I was a kid, it was usually if there was some type of action figure or doll that was like the doll in the clown doll in Poltergeist, or the commercial for Magic really scared me because I actually had like one of the mannequin things. I don't know if you remember the movie Magic with.
I don't. No, Poltergeist, absolutely, with that toy of the clown moving around his room and under his bed. Yeah. A great one.
Definitely. So, I saw that you guys are working together again on a movie that's coming out next year at Hungers.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume that you guys like.
We certainly are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
we liked working with each other on this one, and Stormi is elevating herself from just actress to producer of a feature film. So I'm lucky to be involved. But Stormi, I don't know how much you want to say or how much is a surprise. Why don't you go ahead and speak to this?
Oh, well, Rene's kind of like a mentor to me, and he's kind of like helped me transition over to producing, and he's kind of taught me the business and how things work, and I'm willing to listen. So basically, this is like a feature film that I'm producing and we're developing right now, and we filmed a little bit so far, and planning on getting it completed very soon. And it's like we're doing our own clown movie because we feel like there hasn't been a scary clown movie since It. I mean, there really hasn't been. If you look up, like, how many iconic scary clown movies do you know? Like, it's not that many. And it's a market of horror that not many people have touched. And I think that since Stephen King did such a great job, I think people may be scared to kind of compete with that. But I'm not trying to necessarily compete. I'm just trying to do something different. So we're doing our own clown movie, But ours is a little bit different. We have a different spin on it. It's not just like a scary clown eating people. That's not what it's about. So we're also basing our film out in the 70s, which is completely different as well, because that's a time period that I think people agree, like, horror movies are like at its best, 70s,
Definitely.
80s. And so I think this is going to be a really good surprise for people, something completely different for people. I don't really know what else to say about it, but
it is. It is very different from the Stephen King version, and it's. I know they've got the big remake coming up soon, which that looks pretty good.
That does look good.
I'm definitely going to go see that. But yeah, ours is so different of a clown movie. I think we're going to really shock people with what we've got in this one. So yeah, I'm very excited about it. Unfortunately, telling the premise is not the best thing for us to do right now, because it's so unique.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're looking forward to at least I'm looking forward to the It remake. Maybe Stormi's not, because she loves the original so much, and I love Tim Curry so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we're looking forward to that, and we are super excited about our movie and what's going to come. It's true macabre horror, the likes of which we don't usually get anymore these days.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And as far as It goes, like Stormy, I love the original It. I thought it was one of the best Stephen King adaptations. And so when I heard they were remaking, I was like pretty much against it. But then when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, this does look good. So
yeah, we'll give it a chance. It looks pretty good. Yeah,
it looks good to me. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Where's the best way for people to follow Playing With Dolls Havoc?
Well, there's the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Playing With Dolls Movies. And on the Facebook page, everything is updated all the time. Then there is just the direct website, which is PWD, like Playing With Dolls Havoc.com, and there's direct links there to see the reviews, to download it in 4K or to download it in HD. You see the audience reaction trailer there, and between the official movie site and the Facebook site, you'll have all the information you need, and we'll hope to see you there.
Yeah. I want to ask a real quick question or two about self-distribution. Because I've had a lot of independent people on, and usually a lot of people have run into problems when they get especially their first movie distributed. They normally don't get any money or actually lose money in the long run. Could you, for aspiring independent movie makers, what are the pros and cons of self-distributing your movie?
Well, I'm extremely. I've been in the game for a long time. I've made over a dozen movies, so I'm long past the time of getting ripped off by distributors. But still, we wanted to try to see if we can make better money on self-distribution, because it is a hell of a shell game out there, and you can't trust any of the distributors, and they're cooking their books, and I wouldn't trust any of them as far as I could throw them. And so this is a way to go, but since it's so new, the movie just came out a couple of weeks ago. I don't have the data to tell you whether go this way as opposed to going through regular distribution. All I know is that every cent does come to us this time, so that's a huge plus. And I've dealt with so many distributors, I can't really recommend any of them. I would suggest something that we haven't done yet, but whenever you have a movie, this is my secret to success that I could recommend because it works for bigger people, which is to have do like Blumhouse does. They have $1 million movie, but they'll spend $6 to $10 million on advertising, and then they'll end up with a $20 million profit. So I would suggest, if you're going to go the route of self-distribution, have a big chunk of money to put into advertising, which is the only way it'll work for you. Right now, we're just going on word of mouth. Right now, we've been lucky to have a movie which everyone seems to like, which is a shock for me. I've never had such a universally liked movie like this. But right now, that's all we've been skating on.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to put some advertising dollars into it, but of course my producer's worried about all the piracy. He's, oh God, if I do that, everyone's just gonna take my advertisement and start searching for a free torrent version, or however that works. I don't even know if I'm using the right words, but that's what the big boys do. They have a movie, whether it's Star Wars, Force Awakens is a $300 million movie. They've got that plus more, 300 million plus more to do on advertising. So that's what the big budget movies do. That's a route I've never taken but have wanted to take, and I hope we can take some of that on this movie. And to me, that's the best option to try, because, yeah, with dealing with distributors, unless you're a super experienced guy like me who's mean and doesn't take any crap, if you're just a guy starting out, they will eat you alive. You know.
Well, I want to thank
Sadly.
I want to thank both of you for coming on. I really liked the movie Playing with Dolls Havoc, not just because you guys are here. I actually really enjoyed it, and thank you both for coming on. And not only how can you find the movie, how can you follow Stormi and yourself?
Stormi, go ahead.
Oh, hi. All right. So if you want to follow me, my name is Stormi Maya, STORMIMAYA. And basically, if you type that into Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, I come up. I'm the only Stormi Maya in the world. So there's no one else going to come up but me. So, yeah, I mostly post on Facebook and Instagram. That's mostly where I post. I post on Twitter, too. I'm getting into it. And I have a lot of movies coming out soon, and so I post a lot of that stuff on my social media, and people can stalk me, and I don't mind having an extra stalker. I like stalkers, so
Well, very good. You're on the right show to find new stalkers.
I don't have any social media stuff, really. I have a Facebook, but it's... you know, I'm posting pictures of my kids up there and stuff.
Right.
It's not...
So you don't want to stalk
nothing like... Yeah, Stormi has great social media stuff. Just her pictures alone are worth... if they charged on Instagram, you would have wanted to pay. Her pictures are great. But yeah, for me, it's just the Playing with Dolls movies on Facebook. There's an email there to contact me and the producer. And yeah, please watch our movie, Playing with Dolls Havoc.
Very cool. And thank you both for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
We super appreciate you. Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely.
Very
Thank
cool.
you.
You're very welcome. Maybe we'll have to have you back sometime.
Yeah, on the next one, hopefully.
This is Brie Olson, and you're listening to Without Your Head.